In 1904, the city of St. Louis hosted the Olympic Games, and somewhere in the planning process, someone decided that the marathon, a grueling 26-mile foot race, should be held at 3 in the afternoon in 90-degree heat. That was just the beginning of the problems. The course ran through dusty country roads that were open to regular traffic the entire time. Cars, horses, and spectators could freely drive and wander right through the middle of an Olympic race while it was happening. The organizers provided almost no water stations along the entire course, not because they forgot, because the lead official believed that deliberately withholding water from athletes would make for more interesting science about human endurance. He wanted to study what happened to the human body when pushed past its limits. The runners were essentially the experiment. 32 athletes lined up to start the race. Only 14 of them would ever finish it. The first man across the finish line was an American named Fred Lors. The crowd went wild. Officials draped a medal around his neck. Alice Roosevelt, daughter of the U.S. president, was about to present him with his trophy. Then someone pointed out that Fred Lors had not actually run the whole race. He had dropped out at the 9-mile mark, hitched a ride in a car for the next 11 miles, then jogged the final 6 miles to the finish line and pretended he had won. He later claimed it was a prank. Nobody found it particularly funny. He was banned from competition for life. The ban was later reduced. He went on to win the Boston Marathon the following year, which is a whole other story. So the gold medal went to the actual runner-up, an American named Thomas Hicks. But calling him the winner feels generous, because by the time Hicks crossed the finish line, he was barely alive. His trainers had been following him through the race in a car, and somewhere around the 10-mile mark they realized he was fading badly. Their solution was to give him a drink made of strychnine, raw egg whites, and brandy. Yes, strychnine. The same chemical used in rat poison. In small doses in 1904, it was considered a legal performance stimulant. They gave it to a man running a marathon in 90-degree heat and called it sports medicine. It kept him moving, barely. By the final miles, Hicks was hallucinating that he still had 20 miles left to run. He had to be physically supported by his trainers, who ran alongside him, holding him upright while his legs continued moving out of pure muscle memory. He crossed the finish line, being essentially carried. Multiple doctors rushed to revive him immediately. He never ran a competitive marathon again for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, somewhere behind Hicks, a Cuban man named Felix Carvajal was having arguably the most eventful race in Olympic history. Felix had no sponsorship, no money, and no official support. He had raised his own money by performing street shows in Cuba, traveled to New Orleans, and then lost everything he had at a dice game. He hitchhiked the rest of the way to St. Louis and arrived at the starting line in long trousers, a long-sleeved white shirt, a beret, and street shoes. A fellow competitor took one look at him and cut his trousers off at the knee so he could run. Felix ran the marathon chatting with spectators in broken English. He stopped at an orchard partway through the course and ate several apples because he was hungry and they looked good. The apples were rotten. Felix immediately doubled over with stomach cramps, lay down on the side of the road, and took a nap in the middle of an Olympic race. He eventually got up, finished the race, and placed 4th overall. Then there was Len Townyan from South Africa, one of the first black African athletes to ever compete in the modern Olympics. Townyan was running well and was on course for a strong finish when a pack of wild dogs chased him over a mile off the official race route. He lost significant time, recovered, and still managed to finish 9th. William Garcia of California collapsed on the road about 8 miles from the finish. The amount of dust he had inhaled from the country roads had coated his entire esophagus and ripped open his stomach lining. He was hemorrhaging internally. Doctors later said that if no one had found him within another hour, he almost certainly would have died. The official race time of Thomas Hicks, the winner, was 3 hours, 28 minutes, and 53 seconds. It remains, to this day, the slowest winning marathon time in Olympic history by nearly half an hour. After everything that happened, the lead official who designed the race wrote a report proudly declaring the event a success from a scientific standpoint. He said the experiment in human endurance had produced valuable data. The International Olympic Committee was not as enthusiastic. The marathon event was nearly removed from the Games entirely. It survived. But the 1904 disaster directly led to the introduction of the very first anti-doping rules in Olympic history, specifically written to stop trainers from giving their athletes rat poison and brandy. The 1904 Olympic marathon had a man who drove to victory, a winner who nearly died from poison, a Cuban man who took a nap, a runner chased off course by dogs, and another who almost bled to death from breathing dust. And somehow, all of this was perfectly legal. Did you know about the 1904 Olympic marathon before this video? Let me know in the comments.